Children and grieving is one of the most difficult topics that I've ever covered in my entire life. This is a true story about my sons and I, and some of the difficulties that we went through when we found out about the loss of their father. It was in October we got a call that really took us by shock. We were not expecting ever to get this kind of a call, but it was a call that they had suspected that my son's father had perished in a house fire. Now, we weren't together for a few years. We were divorced, and at that time, my sons were in school and having some major challenges with the news of hearing about their father. Now, we didn't know right away if it was completely for sure that it was him. So we had to wait for the identity, that it was certainly him. And then we had to plan a funeral, and that was very, very difficult. So upon receiving this information, of course, the first thing that happens is we go into shock, and there's a lot of crying and a lot of emotions that occur, and a lot of phone calls happening, a lot of inquiries. But the best thing that I could do for my sons was just to listen to them and be an ear for them. We talked about his life. We shared stories. We memorialized him by, cooking some of his favorite food. We also prepared for the funeral all together. We encouraged each other whenever there were sad moments that we could actually just, ask or get some help that we needed in order to get through the time. The time was very long waiting for the news, to the confirmation. So what we did was we were going through our albums, looking at pictures. We were telling each other stories. We ate healthy, light foods. We went for walks. We did everything that we could do, including praying, having a ceremony. We also, asked for help from the elders. We even went to for counseling as well, and we did some journaling, artwork, everything that we could do to help to heal our spirits from this really hard time. So one thing I can say as a parent to another parent is to really be there for your children, because the trauma that they receive during these times are really difficult. And, they have this sense of insecurity that what if my other parent goes? So the continuity of being there for them and supporting through that time is extremely, extremely important. And I feel that it helps to carry that burden of, setting things, doing things appropriately. Now, some of the complications that happened at the burial was that there were some fights within the family as to how this should be conducted. We have, this type of ceremony or that type of ceremony? And it's really important to have a will. Now, we did have a will which was executed, which was great, because there can be many, disagreements in families, especially when it comes to, families that are separated or divorced. But we did have the last will, which is really, really important. The other thing, too, is to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help or going for therapy from a professional, or even asking somebody to help cook meals or do the preparations for the funeral. Some of the other key pointers is that, healing, celebrating those monumental days like birthdays or even Christmas, including them in the prayers or cooking their favorite meals, and doing what it takes to help them through those times. When a child is going through bereavement, they need different types of modalities to heal. And sometimes it's about storytelling, sometimes it's artwork, sometimes, you have to tell the schools that they're going through different things because the behaviors might come out in the schools, such as anger, repressed pain, there might be some crying or outbursts in schools or wherever they're at. The most important thing as well is to have that connection, continually connect to the different support systems that one has in order to ensure that your child is doing well. Caring for them during that critical time is really, really important. Make sure they have adequate information about death and what happens, because a lot of times children don't know what happened. So, what is your beliefs? Tell your children, what you believe in the afterlife or if it's final, because you know what, a lot of kids wonder what's going on, and their fears are often anxieties cause more pain for them. So if you can help to reduce some of that anxiety and pain, then that's very, very helpful. They need to have also a sense of safety in the world, that it's really okay to be going through all this and have a sense of safety, that their lives are not going to be at risk because of the passing of their father. Respect each other in their coping, because everybody copes in a different way. I have two sons and both of them coped very differently. One of them was very emotional throughout the time of the whole time of the funeral and the burial, and the other one was quite quiet. The one that I had to really watch was the one that was quiet, because sometimes they have the after effects of a grief and they don't deal with it right away. So it's really, really important to get that help as soon as possible. People who will guide and help, sometimes there's no prescription for grief. Everyone grieves differently, and we have to respect where our children are at with that. Some people want to talk about it, some children don't want to talk about it. Some kids want to be involved, some people don't want to be involved. Involved in an inclusion in rituals and anniversaries is really important as well. And opportunities to remember that person that passed away is really, really critical. So those are some of the really, really important things. Some of the things that they might ask is, who's going to take care of me? That reassurance is really, really important. They might ask, am I going to be the next one? And you can say, you know what, we all have a timeline here. But you know what, we got to make the most of what we have today and be in the present as much as possible. And did I cause my parent to die is often another question that kids ask. And it's important for them to realize that it's not their fault. You know what? We all have, our timelines, and the most important things that we can do for our children is communicate with them, communicate what's going on, do the journaling, the artwork, the exercise, making a memory box, making photos available, making albums or journaling how you feel about that person. Put together, different things that they can actually exercise their grief and start letting go. Even letting them speak at the funeral and letting them be a part of it, because, they need to have their own closure as well. The other important thing too is create rituals that will help to carry them through their lives and memorialize their parent. Make time to sit down and to really listen to them is another pointer that I'd like to point out. And, it's a very difficult time. So, it's really important to keep an eye on our children, especially if they have aggressive outbursts or physical symptoms of depression, or sleeping or eating problems could be issues. They might even become socially withdrawn and depressed, and that's really, really important. They might feel a sense of guilt or even self-destructive behaviors such as using drugs or alcohol. But therapy really, really does help. So that's one of the things that we did, and counseling was very, very helpful for our family. And the other thing too is to have your own ceremony, ceremonialize the person. You know, either you have a public event or you can have different ceremonies at home, you know, to remember those birthdays or, you know, Christmas times and things like that, and acknowledge the person that has gone out. Also to create like a happy memories of the person that passed away, despite the fact that, you know, it might be a tragedy through a fire, and that's what happened in our case. So what we did was we created poster boards of pictures and talked about some of the great times that we had together as a family. And I think all those steps are really, really critical in helping our families to heal, and especially our children, because our children are the future leaders to our families. And we want them to have kind of like a blueprint of how to deal with, you know, dealing with death and dying. And so that is basically this mastermind workshop about our children and grief. And this is one of the hardest topics to talk about, but it's really critical that you find some help, or, you know, message me, or even go to a counselor and get some help, because all these different things that I talked about are critical in the healing process. And you know what's beautiful? That we can get to the other side. Right now, my sons are peaceful. They've gone through the grief, and you know what? They're thriving in life. And you will thrive as well. And so will your children. Just know that there's help out there for each and every one of you. So thank you for your time, and have a blessed evening, and thank you for tuning in. I'm so grateful to have shared the gifts that I received when I went through this whole experience. Have a great evening, and all the blessings in the world to each and every one of you.